First of all, why did you not, and these are questions that have been asked, why you didn't submit the petition to the delegation of the Bank of Ghana that met you? Start off with that.
Well, good morning to you, Alfred. Good morning to all our viewers. It's good to be back on your program. Indeed. Let me state that, first of all, it is important to commend the mammoth crowd that showed up for the Occupy BOG demonstration. The attendance was impressive. It was a really massive participation. And it tells you that the vast majority of Ghanaians are reeling under the harsh economic policies of this government. The Bank of Ghana, as we all know, has been run down. It's been made bankrupt. Our reserves have been depleted. For the first time in the history of our country, the central bank has recorded losses to the tune of 60.8 billion Ghana cedis. It's never happened. A negative equity of 55 billion. As we speak, this governor is in flagrant violation of Section 30 of Act 918. He has printed money to the tune of 77 billion Ghana cedis. I mean, this is not conduct which is lawful, which is allowable, which is acceptable. 77 billion Ghana cedis without parliamentary approval. The law is very clear. Then in the midst of all of this crisis, remember that before even the publication of this 2022 financial statement, which portrays a grim reality, a collapse of the central bank, this is a governor who has embarked on the most reckless of decisions with his financial sector cleanup. Many experts, many analysts had told him that, look, don't go for the nuclear option. Adopt a humane approach where you take out the bad directors. You can even have them prosecuted. And then do some injection, which will not even be up to 10% of the very reckless, expensive model that he adopted. He refused to listen, went for the nuclear option. As we speak, the conservative analysis is that because of that nuclear option, more than 50,000 workers in the banking and financial sector have lost their jobs. We all know people, top bank managers, mates of ours, who were doing well as bank managers, who today are Uber drivers, some remain unemployed at home and all of that, because of that reckless option. And the figures keep changing, between 20 to 30 billion that he spent on that so-called financial sector cleanup. The consequences we are still living with. Now, the printing of money that he engaged in illegally, we all know that that also has driven inflation to unacceptable levels, destructive levels. At a point, went as high as 54%. So we are talking about a manager of the central bank who has been so reckless. And we have seen the things that he has prioritized, even in the midst of crisis. Would you believe, Alfred, that in the midst of this humongous crisis, this governor decides that he wants a new office? Can you believe that?
Well, he's continuously defended that that decision was taken before the crisis period. And so it's not as though it's misplaced priority.
It's neither here nor there. You could have been planning to host a lavish 50th birthday celebration. If a year to the celebration or in the year of the celebration, unfortunately, you run into economic difficulties, I mean, who will continue with those elaborate plans to have those lavish parties when you haven't paid your children's school fees? You probably owe your landlord, you haven't paid rent. There are essentials that you can't take care of. Then you say because you had planned this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, so you are going ahead. Who does that? I don't want to use some kind of language, but we all know how we would describe such a person if it happened in real life. Now, this is exactly what has happened at the central bank. And you see, I have intercepted documents which I have put out. Even with this Bank of Ghana project, look at the scandals associated with it. The Public Procurement Authority had approved $81 million. That was the central bank's own budget, $81 million. In less than 8 months, that project spiraled out of control to $121 million. Less than a year, as we speak, the latest documents we have intercepted, that project, without the land is another scandal on its own. Just the fiscal construction, $227 million. Can you believe that? From $81 million to $227 million. And if you read the Central Tender Review Committee's assessment of this project, very damning. The Central Tender Review Committee has said that this governor engaged in all of these illegal variations, started construction, went ahead to implement the illegality before he came to them for approval. Incredible. So you have yes, that is what the Central Tender Review Committee said, and I'll read portions of that to you in a jiffy. So you have a governor of the central bank who has been very reckless, very lawless, and the impact of his lawlessness and illegalities are that so many livelihoods have been destroyed. Apart from the 50,000 job losses in the banking and financial sector, the World Bank estimates that some 850,000 people, 850,000 Ghanaians, I mean, think about it, almost 1 million Ghanaians have been pushed into the poverty zone because of the impact of this governor's recklessness. I mean, when inflation skyrockets, hyperinflation in excess of 50%, you know the implications, you know what that means to purchasing power and all of that. So this is a central bank governor who should not be pushed out. If he had any respect for the Ghanaian people, and if his conscience really sits well with him, he should have resigned long ago. That is what you have seen governors in other jurisdictions do. I mean, the Jamaican governor who resigned some years ago, things were not this bad. Say same for the Greece governor. It's just that in this part of the world, people don't man up, they don't take responsibility, and they always try to pass the buck and disrespect the masses and the people who are their employers. So let me come to the demonstration. Now, we had served notice many weeks ago. Remember all the attempts to frustrate us, and I must commend the demonstrators for being so peaceful. If you read some of the reasons that the police cited in court, very ridiculous reasons, that the demonstration will be violent, it potentially can lead to a coup, all kinds of ridiculous things, and that the court should stop us from embarking on that demonstration. I'm glad that
That's what the police said in court?
Yes, in court, if you read their sworn affidavit. Now, the Ghanaian people have shown that, look, if there are any group of people we should rather be concerned about, we should be worried about, it is the few in leadership who are running down this country, who are engaged in levels of looting unseen before in our country's history. So I am glad that the demonstration passed off very peacefully. Everybody was well behaved. No properties were destroyed, and it was incident free. Now, we had served notice that the petition will be delivered to the governor or his two deputies. So certainly, you can understand why we refuse to present the petition, especially as we already had planned that this demonstration will be a series of demonstrations, because we know that when you have a governor who is determined to cling on to power. Remember, we gave him 21 days to resign. He flatly refused. He's still at post. So it's going to take quite some effort and a really big push to oust him. So we said that we will not present the petition, we won't hand it over to the persons he sent. Our leader, the Honorable Atufosin, spoke on our behalf very clearly that we will be back and that we expect that he will take the Ghanaian people seriously. It is the Ghanaian people he is serving, not some foreigners or some IMF or some external body.
Okay, so
his obligation is to the Ghanaian people.
So even prior to the day of the demonstration, you had already planned that this was going to be a series of protests. So even if the governor has showed up or any of his two deputies has showed up and received your petition, you would have still organized a few more demonstrations?
Yes, definitely. If after receiving the petition a number of days we notice they are still at post, we will have returned to the central bank. Because that's why we tagged the whole protest Occupy Bank of Ghana. So we are determined to occupy the central bank until this governor leaves. Look, let's not downplay the impact of this man's bad decisions, terrible policies, and of course, working in cahoots with the finance minister, the vice president, who is the chair of the so-called solid economic management team. These days, you don't hear them talk about solid team any longer. I don't know if it's become a liquefied team, you know. So these people have destroyed lives. They've destroyed livelihoods. You have senior citizens of our country who can't even have access to their life savings. Can you believe that? The last time you saw how for more than 10 days, senior citizens who should be enjoying their retirement peacefully had to picket the finance ministry. I'm glad that our brother Martin Kpebu is here, who speaks for one of the groups. Mm-hmm. He will tell you their ordeals. Look, some people have died. Some people are hospitalized just because they can't have access to medication. These people have lived a very decent, responsible life. They have saved. They believe that as for government securities, it is virtually risk-free. That's the best place to save your money, to invest your money. And then money that they have worked for, they can't have access to it. For the first time in our country's history, we are hearing about debt restructuring, financial haircuts. Meanwhile, the people who are imposing these decisions, have you gone through the Bank of Ghana's financial statement, his expenditure pattern? $2 million on gold watches at the time people were in crisis. Can you believe that? Travels were more than 200% higher than the previous year in a crisis year. In a crisis year. Can you believe that? He spends over 70 million cedis on travels. Have you seen how much was spent on vehicle maintenance? 131 million, more than 280%.
Said they have a large fleet.
Look, 131 million Ghana cedis can buy you a fleet of new vehicles. That is what they spend on just maintenance. Have you seen communication?
$2 million on
gold. Yes. Oh, you didn't read the financial statement.
It's actually
the watches.
Yes, gold watches, $2 million. Can you believe that? That they bought for themselves. Good question. What has that got to do with banking? $2 million. It's all there. 131 million cedis on car maintenance. 30 million on communications. You remember when we asked for a breakdown, they said, oh, they even tried to rob in journalists, that when they engage journalists, 30 million cedis. A lot of journalists have been speaking of that, hey, please, leave us out. 30 million. And then now they have added that they also bought some software for their computers, and they changed computers to laptops, and all kinds of cock and bull stories. Look, the auditors, if you read page 86 of the financial statement, the auditors, Deloitte, criticized the central bank for hiding their capital expenditure. And you know how much they discovered? 711 million Ghana cedis is what they had spent on reckless capital expenditure in a crisis year, which include payments for the head office and then regional offices Do you know they have remodeled their regional offices? Building new regional offices at this time in a crisis period. So don't even fall for this falsehood that they started these projects in good times. It is not true. I have put out the EI, which was used to compulsorily acquire that land, which they should not have gone near anyway. That is land under litigation. That is land somebody has used for a loan. Very soon, they are in court. Very soon, we would have to pay the cost of the land.
The previously owned SIC.
Yes, which somebody had used for a loan from Ivory Finance, and all those parties are in court. So potentially,
there was an executive instrument.
Yes.
For the Bank of Ghana to
dated 12 October 2020. So again, when they tell you that we started this project long before 2020, was there no COVID? Haven't we started the economic decline? You know, so it is not true that this project started in good times many years ago. It is not true. They secured the land October 2020. COVID has started in March 2020. People were dying. Our president himself had told us in the national address that he knows how to bring back the economy, but does not know how to revive life. So his focus is on managing the pandemic, addressing the public health crisis, making sure that we all stay alive. All other projects have been suspended, have been put on the back burner, unknown to us. And you see, this is even where we have to spend some time. How all of these things are done on the blind side of Parliament, on the blind side of the Ghanaian people. And I am glad that one of the conditionalities for this current IMF program is reviewing the law. Because what makes these governors think that they are a god unto themselves is the so-called autonomy, the so-called independence, where they take this decision. Will you believe, as a member of Parliament, at no point in time did they discuss with us any of these major expenditure items that has far-reaching implications? Look, if you look at this head office project, you add the cost of land. We are talking about $300 million. Imagine what $300 million can do. Just imagine.
See,
you know, so look, this central bank, and Alfred, let me conclude on this point, that fortunately, international news confirms that in other jurisdictions, bad governance have been dealt with or are being dealt with. Governors shouldn't think that they are immune from accountability. Go to Nigeria next door. Their former central bank governor is in detention. He is being prosecuted for all kinds of crimes. Go to Lebanon. The Lebanese governor thought he could divert $300 million into his personal accounts. He has been found out. As we speak, the international community has blacklisted him. He cannot travel to the US, he cannot travel to Canada, he cannot travel to the UK. His assets are being frozen. The former governor of the Lebanon Central Bank. Go to Slovakia. The Slovakia former governor has been indicted. He has been prosecuted and convicted for bribery. So if you look at what has happened in the international space this year alone, this governor should not think that he can get away with his crimes and all the atrocities, the pain that he has caused Ghanaians, the destruction of lives. He will not get away. And he rather is calling demonstrators hooligans. I mean, hooligans. Look, the right to demonstrate is a constitutional right. It's guaranteed. I can decide that I want to demonstrate, or I want to sign signatures, or I want to picket, or I want to do a sit-down strike. These are all democratic tools, public manifestations that I am entitled to. It is not for anybody to look at us, thousands of demonstrators. You even forget about the NDC MPs and say you hate us because you don't belong to our party. The thousands who showed up for this demonstration, who are victims of your abysmal performance, why are you insulting them? Why are you calling them hooligans? I mean, how dare you? Meanwhile, the person who appoints you, who you accepted his appointment, what is his rise to fame? As a member of parliament, was he not leader of many demonstrations? Okay. So you are logically telling us that President Akufo-Addo is a hooligan, and you are the appointee of a hooligan. What does that make you? So you see, look, the arrogance of power must stop, and people must show us with respect.
You have a strategy for him when Parliament resumes. It's something that I would want to find out that strategy is. But let me welcome as well Richard Ahiagba.